Welcome to today's artifact. I'm Professor Bob. And today's artifact did not come from the dungeon. Today's artifact is in a place of importance. You may not be able to see it very well. It's right here. It is a mother's memorial ring, sometimes called a mother's death ring. And you're familiar with, in World War I and World War II, that women who had sons or husbands in the military would wear blue stars or gold stars on their clothing when they went out to tell the neighbors that if it was blue, their relative was okay. If it was gold, they lost someone. And there are other things along with that. But in some parts of the United States, some groups did different things. Now, as I did last time, eventually I will go over to the desk, but I will show you larger versions of this so it make more sense. It's a very small item. Rings are obviously pretty small. And I have it out. Normally it is not in the light. Normally it is covered because the picture on this ring is beginning to fade with age. These would normally have been the picture of the individual when they graduated from basic training. And the parents would take this to a photographer and have the picture put on this black ring. And as obvious as a blue star or gold star is, this black ring is really obvious. These are very rare because normally what happens is on the death of the parents, particularly the mother, these either buried with them or they're destroyed. And I'll tell you the story of how I received this one in a few minutes. So let's go to the chair. Let me first of all, besides the ring, I need to take something else that goes with it, which is a necklace heart, and this is a compact. So let's head to the desk. Well, here we are back at the desk. And you can see here is the ring. And by the way, the ring represents my Uncle Clarence. And that particular picture that is on the ring comes from this 8x10, which was a picture taken of him when he graduated from boot camp. Now, it's not in color because the original color one was lost in the Topeka tornado at my aunt's house. But fortunately, my mother had a copy of it in black and white. So the sepia tone one would have been what was on the ring. Now I mentioned that in World War I and World War II, besides this, you would be expected to see something like these. These are mother's pins. They have a blue star on them. Now one of them has a single star, so there's only one member of that person's family. Another one has 2 stars. That represents 2 members of the family, and then we have one with 3. But they are all blue. We put these on your clothing when you went out so the people knew that they could bring that topic up and talk about it. If your loved one was lost, the Gold Star organization would send you a gold star and a variety of other things. But that's a topic that I'll do at another time. Now, if you had a boyfriend, particularly in World War II, and you wanted to show your support, they actually made a girlfriend's ring with a heart with a blue star in the middle of it for you to wear. So there's all sorts of this type of material. It's not very often that you get to see it unless it's in a museum. These are either very, very, very private, or they go to the grave with the mother or the parents. So let me get into a little bit of Clarence, because this is not only just about the ring. This ring has special meaning for me, and particularly, obviously, I refer to him as Uncle Clarence. Now here is a picture of the family. And in this picture, you see in the middle, bottom level, you have, that's my grandfather, Peter A. Hoff, and his wife, Mary Roletter Hoff. And next to him is my mother, and that is Helen. And you see Clarence up in the corner standing with his uniform, 2nd Infantry Division. And then that is Aunt Clara, my Uncle Joe, my Aunt Mary, who's like my second mother, and Herbert. So that's the whole family. And again, this is a copy. The original I gave back to the family of Aunt Mary some years ago. But it is a very nice picture of the Hoff family from out in Gorham, Kansas, in the Hayes area. Okay? So Clarence goes off to the military. He eventually becomes a sergeant. And then the next thing that you see is this picture down here in this lower corner. Again, I'm showing it, but then you're seeing it in full size. This is his squad. Now, in his squad, you can pick Clarence out. He's the big hulking guy. There's a little skinny guy in the middle. The little skinny guy in the middle is my dad. And what happened is this. I'll show you a picture of my dad. This is his military picture. Well, Clarence is, in his early 20s or 18, somewhere but older than 18. My dad was 42. He was an executive in the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. When they nationalized the railroads, they told all the executives to go to this specific place to enlist. My dad got drunk and went to the wrong one and enlisted in a real one. So instead of being an executive as a lieutenant or what have you running the railroad, they sent him to basic training in Texas. He ended up Fort Sam Houston and then Fort Bull. And his squad for his basic training was Clarence's squad. And he never did go any further. What they ended up doing was making him company clerk, and he rode around on all their hikes and whatever, and they always called him Pops, and he did all sorts of other stuff. But he became very close with Clarence. And then when the basic training was over, the unit was then sent overseas. My dad was put in the MPs for a little while, and then eventually they put him back into the railroad, running the railroad. Unfortunately for Clarence's unit, they're wiped out at the Battle of Saint-Lô during a breakout from Normandy. Won the Bronze Star. I actually have the divisional record of all the material that went on. So the next thing, again, going back to this picture with the squad, in the rest of this frame is the last letter that was written to him by his mother and sisters. And unfortunately, my understanding of the story, as this came back before they got the official telegram that he had been killed, the letter itself in the V-mail style is marked deceased. So he is killed at the Battle of Saint-Lô. Now, I have been to Saint-Lô when I was on a trip with the high school students and had flowers put on his grave. So this is obviously for everyone who lost someone in World War I, or anyone who's lost anybody in a war, whatever. There are special feelings. And in the case of my grandmother, they had this mother's memorial ring or death ring made. And then on her death, I don't know how my mother ended up with it, but she had 3 treasures. One of them is that ring. The other one is this locket that on the inside has a picture of Clarence and a picture of her as a young girl. She only wore this on very, very special occasions. And the other thing she had is this. This is a lady's compact. It has the military emblem on it. Has a mirror, has a little powder. She never used it. She never used it. But it was specially made for her because it is engraved, Helen, 1942. And on the other side, from your brother. Now, I know that this was very, very important to my mother, and when she passed away in the middle 1960s, then it became part of the family material, and I have had it for quite some ever since then. Now, what I do with it is, when I taught my classes, when I teach Western Civ, even in the college, but when I taught high school, one of the most difficult things about teaching history, and I'm a military political historian, is most of the time you talk about the battles and, casualties. And, when you get to the modern world, I used to take World War I and World War II in particular because everybody still had living relatives, at least for World War II, for a while. There's still a few out there. They're dropping very, very quickly. And I would then bring in and say, we've talked about all these battles. Let me show you what happens at home. And I have a death card from the German army, from the Japanese military, from World War I, from an American that was killed at Murmansk. And then I have my uncle's, Uncle Clarence's card, and this memorial material. And it is very effective in bringing that next piece in. So these are very rare, and one of the things this is probably the longest I've had it out in sunlight for a long time. It has faded very badly over the last year, so I only take it out when I'm teaching the class, and then only for a brief period of time, and invite people to come and look at it. So you sometimes, and I've never seen one in an antique store or anything like that. I've seen some odd stuff. But family material, things happen like this. I did this exercise in class one time, and one of my students then at Christmas time went home. Then the family went to visit Grandma because Grandpa had died. And Grandma was in the process of burning all of her letters and material. But they were able to save quite a bit of it. And literally, they dated, were thinking about getting married, and then he went into the military and she did not see him again until the war was over. So they corresponded. So they had all of these letters, he had photographs, he had all kinds of things. And they were able to save it, and they have the proposal letter to her and the answer letter to her, and it almost disappeared. That happens all the time. It is really hard for people to keep that for so long, and sometimes the families really don't care that much about it. And but anyway, I thought I'd share this little story. Now you go, well, wait a minute, how does you call your dad and you call Uncle Clarence? How did my dad and his sister get together? Well, my dad was very close to all those men in that squad, and when they were all killed, my recollection of what he said is he went around and visited as many of the families as he could find to talk about their relative. About half of the men in his squad could not read or write, and he read their letters and wrote letters home for them. And when he went out to visit Clarence's family, he met his sister Helen. They started dating, and they then got married. Now, he's significantly older. I think my mother was 30 when they got married. My dad was 52 at the time. He was born in 1898. And so I'm kind of a World War II surprise. So anyway, it's a little something. So I hope you enjoyed that, and hope you come back next time, because I think next week I'm going to have Sherry is going to do something with her family, and we'll look at that. So again, thank you very much.